BBC News at midday. The former Pope, Benedict XVI, has died. He was 95. He succeeded John Paul II in 2005, but stepped down after 8 years because of ill health. This morning, a single bell rang out at the Vatican to announce his passing. Our correspondent Paul Adams looks back at Benedict XVI's life.
A prolific author and musician with a particular love of Mozart, Joseph Ratzinger led the Catholic Church for 8 years. But his decision to become the first pope in nearly 600 years to resign proved more memorable than a lifetime of scholarship. After John Paul died in 2005, it took just 4 ballots for white smoke to emerge from the Sistine Chapel, announcing Cardinal Ratzinger's election. Already 78 years old, he was the oldest pontiff in nearly 3 centuries. During his tenure, the Church began to confront the scandal of sexual abuse by priests around the world. He died as he lived, a scholar thinking and writing about the place of spirituality in an increasingly secular world.
Benedict's funeral will take place on the 5th of January, with the service being led by Pope Francis. World leaders have spoken warmly of his achievements. President Macron of France said Benedict worked with soul and intelligence for a more fraternal world. Rishi Sunak called him a great theologian whose visit to the UK in 2010 was an historic moment for the country's Catholics and non-Catholics alike. The Archbishop of Westminster, Cardinal Vincent Nichols, said Benedict used the visit to change people's perceptions of him.
And I think he came to England with that and a media reputation of being God's Rottweiler. But I think he left with a sense of him being everybody's favourite great uncle or just uncle, because he was a kind, considerate, highly intelligent and sensitive man.
People travelling to England from China will have to show a negative COVID test before they board a flight. The rule comes into effect next Thursday. A number of countries, including the United States, France and India, have imposed testing for Chinese arrivals after Beijing said it would ease travel restrictions despite a surge in coronavirus cases. Rasmus Beck Hansen is from Air Infinity Health Analytics, which has been modelling COVID cases in China.
Our model says that we are around 1.8 million daily infections, but that will grow in the coming month to 4 million a day. And there are around 11,000 deaths daily in China, but that will grow sadly to 25,000 deaths a day. So it's a very, very serious wave we're seeing playing out in China at the moment.
Activity in Chinese factories contracted for a 3rd straight month in December, an indication of how COVID has damaged the country's economy. The fall in manufacturing was the biggest for nearly 3 years. The outlook for the Chinese economy over the next few months is also bleak. Surging COVID infections could lead to labour shortages and supply chain disruptions. The Queen guitarist Brian May and the artist Grayson Perry have been knighted in the New Year honours. The wildlife campaigner Virginia McKenna has been made a dame. 4 members of the England women's football team have also been recognised after they became European champions earlier this year. The right-back Lucy Bronze, who's been made an MBE, says the whole team deserves recognition.
It is a shame that it's not all the 23 girls who played their part in inspiring the generation and in making history. I can only speak from a personal perspective that my career spans longer than the last 12 months and I've achieved a lot in my entire career, more than just kind of winning the Euros. So yeah, for me it's a huge honour and kind of represents a lot more than just winning one trophy in the summer.
Celebrations have begun to mark the start of 2023. The small Pacific Island nations of Tonga, Samoa and Kiribati were first to greet the new year. They were followed by New Zealand, where thousands of people gathered to watch the traditional firework display. BBC News.
In half an hour, comedian Jeff Norcott examines the limits to our belief in democracy, from the death penalty to town planning, in stand-up specials at 12:30. But first on Radio 4, it's time for Money Box with Dan Whitworth.
Hello. Welcome to this special Money Box. We're going to dedicate the entire programme to the one issue that has dominated the letters, emails and messages we've received from you all year long. And that is the rising price of energy and the increasing cost, unaffordable for many, of heating our homes. But rather than look back or dwell on the present, we're going to look to the future. What are the challenges we face when it comes to being more energy efficient, when it comes to bringing our bills down, and, crucially, what are we doing about it and how much will it all cost? To try to answer those questions, we're going to take a look at 3 of the most innovative, forward-thinking energy schemes in the UK and then get 2 experts to give us their thoughts on those projects. As such, I'll be joined by Dr. Tina Fawcett from the Environmental Change Institute at Oxford University and Ben Whittle from the Energy Saving Trust. But before we hear from them, let's get straight to our first report, where I've been to meet the residents of a small village in Cambridgeshire which, in one of the first projects of its kind in the UK, has recently installed a community heat network supplying renewable energy for anyone who wants it. Walking through the very picturesque and very cold small Cambridgeshire village of Swaffham Prior is the very definition of picture postcard country. There's a pub, 2 churches, a primary school and nearly 300 homes nestled in the countryside between Cambridge and Newmarket. But all of this belies what's going on actually beneath my very feet in the recently laid tarmac and what's happening here with Matt and Abby's house. Hello, you Matt?
Hi there, yeah.
Hello, Matt.
Nice
I'm
to meet
Dan
you.
from Radio 4.
Hi there.
How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. You all right?
Yeah.
So my wife, Abby, who's in the kitchen.
Hello, Abby. I'm Dan.
Hi, nice to
How are
meet
you doing?
And there's 4 of us. We've got 2 kids, and we've lived here for 5 years now.
We recently been part of a community heating scheme, and before we joined this scheme, it was heating oil, and in this village that is the only thing that's available. There's no gas or anything like that, so it was oil.
But now, that new community heating scheme Abby mentioned means she and her family get all their energy needs supplied by air source and ground source heat pumps, piped straight into their home from a small energy centre newly built on the edge of the village, which is connected up to a community heat network, basically a series of pipes, recently laid underneath nearly every street here, allowing anyone who wants to connect up with it. Abby, show me what you're using now.
Yep, so we're just going into the utility room now.
Okay.
And I'm just going to show you our new heat